Hello and welcome to the program. I am DEJI360. For Nigerians hoping to get employed under the recruitment exercise of the federal government, they may have to wait until pending issues surrounding the program is resolved. The Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus Keyamo, got into a heated argument with members of the Senate and House of Representatives Joint Committee on Labour when he appeared before the panel to provide modalities now for the recruitment exercise. After accusing Keyamo of lopsidedness in his appointment of committee members of the Special Public Works Program, the legislators opted for a closed-door session to conclude discussions, but Keyamo objected to this, insisting clearing his name right in front of the cameras. That meeting ended abruptly, however, not without Keyamo giving his own side of the story. Take a listen to what he said shortly after he was discharged by that committee to go.
The background to this was that a couple of days ago, they started mounting pressure on me that I must bring the list of those to select the 1,000 persons from all the local government, must bring it to them, for them to direct me and to direct me as to what to do from state to state. The chairman insisted I must come to them privately for them to hand over to me certain instructions as to how this program will be done across the country. I said no. That will be sharing the powers of the president. I can only be answerable for what I have done by virtue of the provisions of the Constitution. But you cannot direct me. What they are getting wrong there, they are quoting Section 88. We have litigated Section 88 over and over. What they are getting wrong there is that I am questioning their powers to investigate. I am not. I fully concede to the powers of the National Assembly to investigate for the purpose of exposing corruption. And that is the point I made, that they said I must apologize, that we cannot allow the cameras go out. You cannot accuse me publicly of a lopsided issue and then you now close the doors and begin to say what? The root of the matter is that they want me to bring the entire program to the House, to the committees, for them to direct as to how it will be executed, and that is not their power. They don't have such powers to direct. They can only investigate what I have done, but they cannot direct me.
Now, in response, the National Assembly announced the suspension of the exercise and said it will be on hold until the Minister of Labour provides more clarification on the recruitment. Take a listen now to the Senate spokesperson, Senator Ajibola Bashir, speak on the decision reached by the legislators.
The National Assembly reminds members of the public that the legislature was part of the conception of the program, approved it, and appropriated funds for its implementation as part of the COVID-19 response strategy. The National Assembly, in line with its constitutional oversight function, has mandated its committees of labor and productivity to immediately invite the Honorable Minister for Labor and Productivity and any other relevant officials of the ministry to appear before the Joint Committee to brief it on the modality for the implementation of the engagement of 774,000 persons for public works. In accordance with the constitutional imperative of oversight, the legislature being important stakeholders in the democratic process and elected representatives of the people needed to be appraised of modalities for implementation for effective feedback to our constituents and in ensuring that our constituents optimally participate in and benefit from the process. In view of the foregoing, the implementation of the program shall be on hold pending proper briefing of the National Assembly by the Minister of Labour and Productivity.
Joining me now to discuss this is Libros Oshoma, who is a lawyer and a political affairs analyst. Libros, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, do the lawmakers actually have the powers to suspend this exercise?
They don't have the power to answer a question directly. They can only communicate to Mr. President
grievance,
their grievance or their discrepancies after investigating what they ought to do. Since it's a committee after investigation will now refer their findings to the general committee of the House. That's the general House. And if a resolution is passed to that effect, then it is communicated to Mr. President to sit down unilaterally and say that you have suspended a program where money had been budgeted for. Because you had a misunderstanding with the minister in the course of investigation. It's clearly not within their power. It's also not within the powers of Section 88 that they have quoted copiously.
Because
and,
this
it
is
not also within the powers of the legislature to direct the executive to that effect. They do not have that power.
Because I get the impression that this tantamounts to, passing the budget, and at the same time, just because you have an agreement with the executive, you now say the budget is suspended, that the budget should not be implemented.
Once the budget is passed, it becomes and assented to by Mr. President, it becomes a law. So that is why we say once money is budgeted, it is deemed appropriated upon assent by Mr. President. You can no longer recall, it is no longer within the power of the legislature to recall the appropriation of that fund. And it's the only people that can vie. Even when vying, it's the same executive, but they will have to seek consent. But in this case, money has been appropriated, money has been budgeted. It is that at the point of appropriation that the House had invited the minister for clarification and explanation. I also do not think that at this stage that the House has suspected, any corrupt practices in
absolutely
the implementation.
Not.
Yeah, so if they ought to have wait for implementation first, wait out for the implementation, and then before you now begin to say, okay, yes, you are oversighting, and then you suspect that there were some sharp practices and corrupt practices, and so you would want to find out how this money was spent. If you think that because as a lawmaker that represents a constituency, and you think that your constituency would ask you, how did you, what did you do, what were you doing in Abuja where there were jobs to share and your constituency didn't benefit, you can liaise with the executive. You can lobby the executive to include your constituency in the implementation. It is not, in my opinion, it is not to browbeat the executive into kowtowing to your whims and caprices.
Now,
that is not the intendment.
And another thing is, you just made a very important point there, that this thing has not been implemented, and that's just the truth. And when it comes to implementation, it's actually the executive that is expected to implement, and not the National Assembly. Yes. So the lawmakers now inviting the minister at this stage means that they actually want to take part in the implementation. As a matter of fact, they provided the budget, they approved the budget, and at the same time, they want to be the ones, they want to be part of the execution of the project, so to speak.
That's the irony of our situation, where the man who has approved would also want to be part of executing using oversight. Oversight really clearly defined means where the execution had been wrongly carried out, or that you feel that the money that was budgeted is not being used for what it was budgeted for. So as an oversight department or arm of government, you can step in to say, no, you redirect how it should be done. But in this case, what were the issues? The issues were plainly simple, that they were oversighting to expose, corrupt practices in the implementation of the program. And the minister simply said, well, in as far as this program is concerned, where we agree that you have powers to oversight, but you do not have powers to direct or tell me how to implement the program. We sent a list on implementation. It was in the expenditure frameworks of the government. And so all of those are within your powers. And so if you feel that it's not properly implemented, it is not for you to sit in chambers. In fact, oversight should be mainly done in the field.
In the field.
To go assess what has been done. Vis-a-vis what was submitted to you during a budget approval. But to sit down then, if after that, then you can now invite parties to come throw light on the discrepancies that you notice. But in this case, that is not the case here. You have not even gone to the field to find out how this program is being implemented, or if there are discrepancies. You are calling the minister to come and explain to you again. It is like defending the budget after the budget has been passed. And that's why you hear that the minister was very, very vociferous, against the step that the members were trying to take. But because the members are so used to it, it's a convention for them. They are so used to this practice, and nobody had actually queried them before now. So it was very common for them to proceed in error by going ahead to say they have cancelled the implementation of the program, even when they know clearly that they do not have power to so do.
Now, Libros, let's tell ourselves the truth. Don't you think the key thing at issue here is that, look, these members, the lawmakers want a piece of the pie, and they've actually gotten a piece of the pie because the minister made it quite clear that they were given 15% slots, 15%. But obviously, from my own reading of the situation, you may see things differently anyway. It appears the lawmakers are not satisfied with the 15%. They probably want more, and that's the reason why we're having all of this.
That's the side of the minister's story. We have not heard from I wouldn't want to judge because the minister had said that he got overture and request from the chairman of the committee.
He made it very clear that they got 15% slots.
Made it very clear. Yes, he said they got 15% slots, but that they have been calling him to submit, to them on how to submit to the direction of how this program will be implemented. Also, I will not sit down here to say that everything the minister said, was true, because I have not heard them counter that side of the story. I would also want to hear their side of the story for me. Yeah, if I want to hear their side of the story for me to conclude that truly what is at play here is the Oliver Twist tendency of wanting more. But that said, if you look at the issues in the public domain, if anything, if we are to believe some of these stories flying around, yes, you would say that, and then also against the backdrop of the precedent that the National Assembly had laid, you would say that what basically they are looking for is how to get more slots. Now we have turned Abuja to, a job market where slots are divided. Mind you also, these honorable members and senators represent constituencies. And in their constituencies, the only way that you can be seen to have performed is not the number of laws the bills that you propose on the floor of the Senate, on the floor of the great chambers, but how many projects you are able to attract to your community, or how many people you are able to create employment for in your community, despite the fact that you are not a member of the executive. And so against that backdrop, some of them would also want to lobby for more slots to be able to distribute to cronies, political associates. And that it is also a notorious fact that a lot of them have open time and twist ministries, departments and agencies to achieve this. And that's why we hear that anytime there is a job vacancy at some of these juicy parastatals and the agencies like Ministry of, like NNPC, like CBN. Like Ministry of Petroleum Resources, CPR and the rest, even though you barely, or sometimes, to fulfill all righteousness or to fulfill the intent of the books, you see adverts, but people that are eventually taken are people who are related to ministers, governors, senators, House of Rep members, and so it will also not be far from the truth that this also might want to be one of those ways of achieving, those conventions that they have laid down and have been known for, which is quite sad.
Just before I let you go, Liberals, because we have to wrap up now, are you not surprised that this is actually generating a lot of dust? I mean, this is just an ad hoc job anyway. It's supposed to last for 3 months. Beneficiaries are supposed to get paid 20,000 naira. Yet it's generating so much interest. And it's designed to put money in the pockets of people, especially at this time. And it's generating this much controversy.
Don't forget that you're in a poverty capital of the world, where 5,000 naira can go a long way for vulnerable. And that's so. Also, coupled with the fact that corruption is endemic here, where in some cases names are going to be on that list, names of people who are either dead or non-existent. And so some persons are going to pocket those money, claiming that the names actually, went to the money actually went to the vulnerable. Look at what happened with the palliative sharing. Till date, there's been back and forth battle between the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and the National Assembly. And also you find out that even in the states where palliative are shared, you see people, government palliative found their way back, into the market where they are bought. So when you put all of this in perspective, you would understand why there's so much controversy surrounding, the disbursement or the implementation of the program. I also think, I might be wrong, I also think that the minister should have managed, this crisis, better than this, rather than create, the kind of situation, that we find. Because at every turn, we find that the government, the president will always want to strike a balance, in his relationship with the members of the National Assembly. So I think the minister also manage, that crisis very well. You can go into a closed-door session with them and then come out to explain to Nigerians what actually transpired in that place.
And I think that's where we're heading to, because
to believe or not.
And I think that's where we're heading to, because the speaker has said the issues will be resolved and that the minister will come. So we believe there are talks going on now, and that they will resolve the whole thing. But it's unfortunate because this thing is designed for poor people. And if poor people do not benefit, if you ask me, it doesn't make any sense at all, even giving anybody any slot. Everybody should have equal opportunity to get this. When you now begin to give slots to certain people, then what happens to the other Nigerians? Are they not Nigerians?
Completely, I agree with you completely. Nobody should have been given a slot. It is this slot giving that is actually the beginning, the foundation of all of the crisis. And then I can tell you for free, even if at the end of the day the matter is resolved, 60% of the funds will go to private pockets. Quote me. That's what generates. If it's just for the benefit of Nigerians, nobody will complain about it. But why do you need to give slots to anybody if you are actually, giving a level playing field to all? So that means 15% of the funds already is gone to the legislature. Only God knows how many slots the executive also have given to themselves. And then slots to governors, slots to commissioners, slots to House of Assembly members. Before you know, all the slots would have taken all the available space. And then you tell people it is meant for Nigerians. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
It's really quite unfortunate. Liberal Soshoma, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Thank you very much for your contributions. All right.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll take a short break now, and we'll be right back. On DEJI360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent. Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that standard.
DEJI360, providing clarity to issues.